Welcome to What the Fun Podcast with Kimmy,
Kisa,
and Renee.
Glad you can join us as we explore all aspects of entertainment and current events with industry professionals, friends, and us. Welcome.
So businesses are slowly opening up again, which means that there's light now at the end of the tunnel that I can see.
Yeah. I don't like the light.
You want to go back in your hole, don't you?
I do.
I took advantage of visiting the Old Navy that opened up last week.
You got to go inside?
I got to go inside. I was like one of the first customers in there, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I practically bought a bunch of stuff. A lot of clothes that they didn't sell before the pandemic. Obviously, they got to clear the racks to prepare for new stuff coming in for this summer. So I'm just saying, now's the time to stock up on your summer wear because the deals are out there.
Oh yeah, now's the time. I mean, I've been needing to go clothes shopping for a long time, but I haven't done it. I think because I'm like an online shopper. I don't like going where other people are.
So you are totally fine with social distancing.
Listen, when they were like, you don't have to be around people, I was like, great.
I know how
Y'all
you feel.
tell me twice.
Yes.
And salons, right? I believe that the salons open up in phase 3, right?
Like hair salons or nail salons? Because I need the nail salons to open up.
I mean, estheticians need to get back to work before we are clear to go back to work. That's all I'm saying, because that's an essential situation before we head back.
Estheticians, cosmetologists.
There's so much going on in my face right now that just needs to go away. And I cannot take care of it myself. These eyebrows are like, woo, you know?
Renee, I'm going to buy like a little kit and I'm going to come over.
There's just too many. I tried plucking last week and I was like, oh my God, it hurts so
You
much.
have good tweezers though?
I don't know, girl.
I told you to get good ones.
No.
You know, you could buy one of those stencils and then you can just pluck around the area that, you know, you want to shape.
It's so much.
They have stencils?
No.
You just put it over your eyebrow and then it allows you to pluck around the area so you keep the shape or the shape that you want.
Oh.
It's a guide for those who have problems plucking.
I'm going to tell you guys a story. So I plucked the eyebrows because they were starting to braid on each other, right? So, and then I was like, oh, my lady usually trims them up. So I decided to trim them, and I trimmed, and now I have a bang of an eyebrow.
You just use scissors?
Yes. And I have a bang of an eyebrow now, and I don't think so. When it's my lady coming back to work.
There's a reason why people get trained on how to do this.
Can you imagine? She lets that thing grow. Her hair grows just over her eyes.
I'm looking forward to wearing a mask at work. That's what I'm telling you.
A full face mask?
Yep. Yep.
Like all you see are just Renee's eyes.
That's it. That's all you're going to be able to see.
Or maybe it's like a full face mask of your face. So it's still you.
Maybe. I don't know.
Just
I don't know.
eyes.
Or maybe someone can carry me on a computer. So I stay at home and I'm virtually there on a computer. So everyone just takes me around from office to office. And I stay home. I'm okay with that. I see the light and I'm like, oh, let me cover my eyes a little bit. I'm not ready for that.
I'm blinding you.
I'm good.
Yes. It's so true.
But it is good that people are getting back to work and things are starting up. But I personally don't. I like the energy we had of cool, smooth. It just allowed us to kind of breathe and take a different look at life. And now it's starting to ramp up again. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. So, yeah. You know, we did get a question on Facebook from one of our listeners. Which is related to this subject.
Yeah.
What was that, Kimmy?
Well, Adina Welly asked, how do you think the entertainment industry gets back on its feet after its pandemic? I know. On crutches. We're going to have to hobble our way through this madness because it's not like you can hop on an easy ECV and cruise your way through
Well,
this.
that would be cruising right in, but maybe like a one-legged scooter.
Adina, to answer your question, we don't know. We don't know. There's so much guidelines and restrictions as to how, you know, the world's going to operate, and depending on what we put up there, I don't know. It's a question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a question mark. I mean, the other thing is that all these people are streaming like crazy. So it's like, maybe the streaming is just going to be...
It's going to be the new
50%,
thing.
75% of like what
we do.
Yeah, who knows?
The film industry can't just jump back in and start filming. I mean, there's so much that goes on with a big film crew. We're not going to be making movies anytime soon. I mean, if we were to film movies, I think it'll start with the smaller productions, and a lot of live streaming is happening these days, and that's going to be the latest thing. A lot of competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but I do feel that it's also like the precursor of a renaissance, because creative people have been home and they've been working on things, and yes, we're taking advantage. And we've talked to some people, and they've given us, you know, some ideas that we've shared on the podcast already of what people are doing,
right?
Like Jason, who's, you know, doing the streaming and all of that. But it seems like it's an opportunity for reconnecting with that creative ability that we have as artists and putting things together. Like we're doing that with this podcast, and I'm sure that there are other folks that are doing the same. Tiffany Spicer Keys, who we're going to be interviewing on this podcast today, she has taken the time to look at her business and growing that and marketing herself and the business, because she hasn't had time to do that when you're working. And that seems to be the case when we're like working and moving forward. We're so focused on our jobs and what we have to do that we don't have time to work on other things that can, you know, also feed us, like that feeds our creativity and gives us opportunity to express beyond our line of work. So why don't we just get to it? Let's get to Tiffany, because I am actually really excited to getting to talk to her today and learn more about what she does.
Yes, she is an actress turned technician, earning a Screen Actors Guild by the age of 15. She's established herself as a lighting programmer for film, television, live concerts. Did she do the Prince event? Yeah, she did. And corporate events. Her and her team are the most sought out programmers, lighting some of the world's biggest stage. I am so excited. Let's welcome to the show, Tiffany Spicer Keys. Yay!
Yay! Yes.
Tiffany. Yay. Welcome.
Hello, ladies.
So nice to have you.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah. She's a busy lady.
Yeah, it's been great and stressful all at the same time.
But we're so excited to have you here. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today, but focusing primarily on starting your own business and the whys behind it, as well as your process, because like your bio states, you are one of the leading people out there in your industry making it happen, and going from a comfort zone once we start getting into your history and breaking off and doing your own thing. Where did you start, and how did you get into lighting to begin with?
Yeah, because you're an actress, and that just threw me off when I learned about you. You're a performer. All of a sudden, now she's turned into this amazing programmer. So, yeah, tell us about your journey.
Yeah, I started seeing dancing as a very, very young girl. My mom is a full-fledged ballerina. My dad was singing in the Pacific Chorale choir. So singing and dancing my whole way growing up. I was part of a dance company, toured around the States and around the world, just performing. I did regional theater growing up. I did a small Broadway tour for a summer. My mom jokes about, like, I lived another lifetime as a young adult growing up and having a performance career. I also dabbled in a lot of background acting and little stunt performing when I was a kid, which I got a Screen Actors Guild card for, which I still am a member because why not hold on to that?
Yes.
Yes.
And my parents were always big about education. And so I decided to go to college, and I got a musical theater scholarship to go to college. So I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, and I'm loving it. And about my sophomore year in college, I was performing during the summer, and I just got burnt out. There was just something in me where I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for, 15 years at the age of 20 something. And I started talking to the techs and made some friends of the tech crew. And I'm like, wait, you get hired based on your work ethic and who you are as a person, not whether or not you fit in the costume or how tall you are or how short you are, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. And it, I kind of had like a midlife crisis at the age of 20. And when I went back to go into my junior year, I went to the dean and I said, hey, I'm done. And she kind of just looked at me like, what? And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she goes, well, why don't you keep on doing a theater degree, but come and join lighting? And she's like, take my classes. You can work in the lighting lab and earn some money by lighting some of the shows and go from there. And I said, okay. And I left, I graduated college with an emphasis in lighting. And right after that, I got picked up by Disney. Like one does when they live in Southern California. You either work for Starbucks or you work for Disney.
It was a summer job. It was a summer job is what I hear.
That's all you have to tell yourself. It was just going to be a summer job.
A summer job. So I got hired, and I was just a general stagehand. I was like, hey, whatever you want me to do, I am just happy to be here. Glad to be part of the team. And I learned a lot. I learned carpentry, electrics. I got swept up into the rigging team for a while, doing some rope access, and got so many opportunities to learn and grow and network at Disney. I got to watch and learn from some of the best programmers out there, which really sparked something inside of me. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. This is awesome. I really want to do more of this. And as those connections and those realizations kept going, all of a sudden I found myself like just programming shows and given opportunities to go and like collaborate with directors I used to perform with and dance for. And it became this great I keep on saying collaborative process because that's what really this family was Disney is this great artistic family where we get to feed off of one another and develop these amazing shows. And we spoke the same language. We were able to talk about like, oh, when she pasha's over here and, hits this mark, we want to do this. Okay, great. And so we were able to have that conversation. So opportunities after opportunities kept on coming up. And along came World of Color. If you haven't seen it, it's at Disney California Adventure. And it's one of the nighttime spectaculars of Stephen Davison and programmed by amazing people such as Jason Badger, who I got to assist for during its creation. And it was there that I got to really learn a lot about my profession and being a programmer. And it wasn't just about lighting, it was about fountains. And I was like, well, okay, this is a fountain. How? I don't understand why I've never programmed fountains before. And Jason has a lot of like, why am I part of this show? Like, why did I get selected? And the senior technical director told me, and he goes, well, Tiff, you used to be a dancer. You understand movement in space. You understand musicality. You understand fluidity. You understand what it is to make something dance. And that's what we need is dancing water. And I went, all right.
I think that's a great way of describing what a lighting programmer does. But for our listeners who are not as familiar, would you mind describing what you do exactly as a programmer?
This is a great question. For the people who don't know what a lighting programmer is, my mom, who's a dancer, one day asked me when I was starting off my TV career, she goes, what do you do? Like, I watched the show. I see the show. What do you do? And I go, Mom, I choreograph lights. And she went, huh, okay. I'm like, I tell the lights what to do. And I say 5, 6, 7, 8. And the lights do what I told them to do. And she goes, huh. I'm like, great, cool. So if you watch like The Voice or Idol or, all those reality competitions, if you watch a concert, the lights and the rig that change colors and move and all that, that's what I do. I use a computer program to tell the lights where to go, when to go, and how to turn on and off. I literally take a light switch and flip it up and down. Sometimes for 1,200 lights, sometimes for 70. I mean, it just depends.
Thanks for explaining that so beautifully for our listeners and me, because I love you using that as a way of describing what you do, choreography of lights. That's really great. So back to where we were. So you were talking about working at World of Color. So then what happened?
So that kind of just like leaped off into everything. And then along came Electronica and Mad Tea Party.
The best ever. Sorry.
And it was during my time at Mad Tea Party where it was like my first big show that I was developing. And they decided, Disney decided to bring in an outside designer, Matthew Firestone from Full Flood. And Full Flood does a lot of TV and live concerts outside in the real world. And he came and helped us develop this show along with the team that we have. And he's like, you're doing great. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, I'm programming shows and being a stagehand. And he goes, do you want to be a programmer? I'm like, yeah, I'm programming. And he goes, no. If I get you a job outside of Disney, will you come and work for me? And I said, oh yeah, I would love to. And about 2 months later, he gave me a phone call and he goes, I got a show for you. Are you ready? And I was like, sure. And so it began my transition into TV. And I started working on the Arsenio Hall show 2.0 in the 2012-2013 year. And
that is great.
It was a huge transition, a huge jump. And it took me about a good another 6 months, I think, till I finally left Disney and just fully dove into this new career.
How great is that he calls you back 2 months later, and not even after a year after that, you were starting your own company. Now tell us, how did that come about? Because I myself started a food truck business with my brother, but here you are doing it alone. Tell us about that process and how Key Lighting came about.
Entertainment industry is in its own a freelance world. And so it's not uncommon that people go out in the freelance and not have a company. They just work as an individual and get paid as an individual, be it cash, be it what it may be. And going into this television career, I wanted to have a solid foundation in being taken actually seriously. And so I thought I would be like, I'll just create a company and kind of hide my name as Tiffany Keys. Being in a male dominant industry, I was like, I want my company to be the face of who I am. I don't want to be judged, being very scared of stepping out into the real world. I created a company kind of as a facade to hide behind. And also kind of as a insurance coverage. When you deal with lighting and you deal with lighting venues, a blackout, a strobe can cause some serious damage to personal injuries. So I was like, oh, okay, it would be a good safety net to have a company instead of my name being out there. So I wouldn't get sued or anything. So it started actually as just like I'm just going to hide behind this little name and, be assurance and coverage. And it kind of just started as that, as like an LLC. And then as I was trying to refinance a house, they were like, why do you have all these, W-2s? Like I had 15, 20 W-2s one year. And my tax lady's like, they think you're laundering money. Like, and you don't have a solid job. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm bringing in I'm making more money than I have in my entire life. And they're not going to let me get a loan. Like, so it goes, well, maybe you should turn your LLC into a company and just start payrolling yourself. So it looks like you have a solid job. And it just grew from there. I had no intention starting out to be a company or be leading Key Lighting as a big company out there. So it just all happened naturally and just as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Girl, I am fully aware of your resume. You've done gigs from the White House lawn to major venues in Las Vegas. Being that this is a very competitive field, how do you get your name out there? What is your marketing strategy or the secret to your success?
That's a great question. They never, in college and school, they never taught us how to market ourselves. And very rarely do they teach us how to really believe in ourselves too, to the point of self-confidence. And to jump out of your comfort zone and market yourself based on your strengths and believing in those strengths enough to sell yourself to someone else. Luckily, a lot of my gigs have come from networking, like knowing someone and then being referred to a next job. Like, it's funny because as a performer, you would get instant feedback. If you would do a combination across the floor, you would get instant feedback. If you went out for an audition, you would get instant feedback. If you went into rehearsal, the director will pull you aside and give you instant feedback. So you would know how to adjust and change for that job. Mm-hmm. I feel like as a tech, and I've had to really change my mindset about this, you don't know whether or not you did a good job until you get or don't get the next gig, until you don't or do get referred for that job, and it's this interesting limbo that you just have to keep on believing yourself and pushing forward and relying on your strengths and playing off of those strengths and then really tuning into who you are as an individual and finding out what those strengths are, then marketing that and pushing that. But a lot of it is the relationships that you built based on your strengths and weaknesses with other teams. You find a team that rounds out everyone. What I have that I'm strong in, someone else can pick up my weaknesses. And that's what builds a great team. We're not all the same. We are very different. And that helps create something that is unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. So networking has always been a scary thing for me because it's the word networking that gets to me, but I see it where it's more about building those relationships, because you build the relationships with the people that you work with, then you're going to get the next job and you're going to get your name out there because people want to work with you. It's clear that that's been your path, and I love that. But something else that scares me is starting a business. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way. You've mentioned how you went about starting Key Lighting, but how did you incorporate? What were the steps there? Because that can be intimidating, but I know that your experience, although intimidating as well, is very comprehensible. And I feel that our listeners can benefit from that.
No one ever told me how to start a business. And we're very fortunate to live in a world now that we can Google anything, how do I start a small business? I've known a lot of people when I was young that would start a business but would fail to know that they had to do certain things. But now with online services, they do it for you without going, oh, by the way, we filed these papers for you for the quarter. I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me something I did not know I needed to do. But thank you. That's why I pay you. So I literally Googled LegalZoom and started an LLC. And then when I was told, we're not going to give you this loan because we think you're laundering money in a drug cartel because you have 20 W-2s. I went, oh, what? Huh? And they said, oh, you can probably start your own company so you can be on a payroll. So I then moved Key Lighting from an LLC to an S Corp. And I started paying myself and just, find out on the way. And there's nothing out there that I know of that says, do this, 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 because every journey is different. But it was the best step I think that I did was making it an S Corp and just becoming more of a professional business. Because I think also people take you more seriously once you say no, it's a payroll. I know how to run a business. I know how to professionally conduct a contract, negotiate, and you build those skill sets as you learn how to develop your own business. And that is something that you must find out on the way. And again, it's a growing experience that as a business owner will only make you stronger in the long run. People go, oh my God, that's so intimidating to start your own company. I'm like, actually, it's not. It's actually, it's freeing to know that you are now in control of your finances. You're in control of who you work for or what you do and how you define yourself as an individual and a company. it's worth the work or the stress or the effort.
Yeah. I could see where it's like it looks overwhelming because like you just hearing the short version of what you did,
Right.
But it's very comprehensible. But at the same time, it's like, wow, like I have to do that, and that's scary. But like you said, if you don't do it, then you don't do it. Like if you don't challenge yourself, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Yes, it's very intimidating, especially in a man's world. You don't want to be like, how did you start your company, and be this girl that doesn't have an idea of what she's doing, but she really doesn't have an idea of what she's doing. So she's going to figure it out for herself and be like, what, you didn't know that? That happens all the time. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Love it.
Seeing that this is a predominantly male environment, what has been your experience?
Unfortunately, a lot of us, especially in the tech industry, we females that walk in the door have to work twice as hard as a male that just walks in. Mm-hmm. It is something that I've learned from the get-go. Like, it's not fair. It's not fine. Okay, I'll work twice as hard. But when you work twice as hard, you become twice as good, and you learn how to fight internally and quietly. And then all of a sudden, you are where you are, and you're like, yeah, that's right, because I've put extra time in. I've had to work just as hard. I had to learn quietly and ask smart questions, not ask dumb questions, or else you'll be the stupid girl. So you would have to learn on your own. You would have to train yourself. You would have to find out by failing. And I think that's the best way, is to learn by failing. So I try not to make it about being female, because at the end of the day, we're all just people doing the same job. And yeah, you have to work twice as hard. You'll be the butt of every joke. You'll be, looked over because you are female, and they think that you just don't have the right experience, or that you're here because you're someone's daughter or, wife or something. And you just got to prove them wrong. And that you tell a woman to, just to justify her existence, watch out, because man, we come back with vengeance and then some.
I love that, Tiffany. Coming back with a vengeance. Yes, I love that. I think being in this industry, it is really tough. It's really tough to being a female leader and having all of these people looking to you to make these really tough decisions, and not only lead your team, but also have enough confidence in yourself to let your work speak for you. And I guess my question to you is that you've landed some really amazing gigs and have had some amazing opportunities. So do you feel like as you've progressed, as your career has progressed, that you can relax a little bit and let your work speak for you?
When you're a female in the industry, you'll come across times where you feel like you're just getting hired because you're a female. Mm-hmm. Like, there are many times right now where I'm being reached out as an individual, and I feel like they're only reaching out to me because I am one of the very few females in the TV industry. I was on a gig, where a very corporate gig, and a lady who was representing the company comes up to me and goes, "Hey, can I get your business card?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." She goes, "We're looking for females to hire for the next show because our bonuses count on it." And I was like, wow. It makes me really want to work for you guys. Like, like you don't, and I never knew her. Like, she never interacted with me before. She just comes up to me and she's like, "We would love to have you as a female, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, what would that say if I were to do a job just because it's all females? What kind of product is it? Is it because they're good at what they're doing, or is it just because we're females in this industry? Yeah. And it's unfair. I think it's not like, I just want to be a programmer working and doing a job, and I want to get hired based on my work, not of what gender I am. Ugh. Yeah. Welcome to the real world. Yeah. But yeah, that's a subject that I don't think a lot of people talk about, as this uprising of female leadership, is that, are we really getting hired because we are the best, or are we getting hired because it brings a demographic?
Yeah. But I think that once you've hit that demographic, even if, let's say, you are being hired because of the demographic and you take the job, it's the work that you leave behind that's going to speak I think as long as you're conscious
Definitely.
of that, I think that's what matters, because
And you still put your best foot forward.
yeah, because and we can't. That's the responsibility we have to bear on our shoulders. Like, we can't go in saying, I'm just here because I'm a woman and this is what I'm going to do, because I'm going to get my next gig based on that, because that's a wrong mentality. I think that we're being in the entertainment business, we have to know how to talk to people. Going back to what we were referring to earlier, we have to know how to talk to people. We have to read the room. We have to present ourselves as strong individuals, because we are going to be talking to different groups. And ultimately, I think that our goal is to leave the art behind and let the art speak for itself once we're gone. And so we're always going to try our best to put our best foot forward. I know that I personally want to walk into a room and not feel like I'm a girl and they're looking at my skirt, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. So I try to come in very neutral and like wear my pants, but I like to dress cute.
First impressions are for real.
Yeah. And you have to work it. And sometimes that's part of it, just it's who you are, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. And you should feel confident coming in being that, and then doing your job and allowing your job to speak for itself and being taken seriously for that. I think that's the struggle that we all have as women. And it's just allowing yourself to be who you are, having that awareness, and coming in and doing your job. And hopefully someday, maybe 20 years from now, people just look at us as the next human being that's walking into the room.
The right person for the right job.
Right person for the job.
And the people that have doubts, you just have to do what you do best to prove them wrong.
Mm-hmm. What's your sign?
My sign?
What's your sign?
I haven't figured out by now. It's I'm a Capricorn.
Yes.
Hard ass,
ambitious,
working woman.
Yes.
Oh my god! If you haven't figured that out by now, independent, hard ass work. Yeah, that is who I am. I am definitely a Capricorn.
You were like, we haven't figured it out yet.
Do you sometimes miss performing on stage?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm looking up there, I get to do So You Think You Can Dance for the last 6 years. I go in for like 2 to 3 weeks. The core team goes and does the VMAs, and then a couple of us come in and we get to program the show for a couple weeks. And I just love watching it. You become really emotionally involved, and it just brings back so much memories. And then, at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not getting up and down off that floor at the age of 30 something. I mean, oh God. But we got to work with you get to work with some amazing creative choreographers, and that connection that you get to make with them, being an ex-performer professionally too. Yeah. I did it as a living at a very young age. Nappy Taps, watching them grow up as dancers turned choreographer, production people now. It's always a fun thing to go back and work with them, because they're so collaborative and love listening, and you have the certain vocabulary as an ex-dancer with other ex-dancers, and it's like this bond. It's like, yeah, we used to be dancers, but we got out just in time. Before my body started deteriorating. I miss it, but at the same time, I get to contribute to it on stage as much as I would have as a performer. I get to contribute just as much as lighting. And if I don't like you, I'll block you out. I won't let you. No, it's a great, I love it. It's a perfect combination of the little nerd in me and the performer, and getting to be a female in this industry, leading the way on to very ambitious women who want to do the same. It has definitely, the best of both worlds in my life.
Yeah. I love how you embrace everything that you are, from like as a child to now, and all the growth that you've done and the different exploring of careers, and you've embraced all of that, and it makes you a stronger person versus like someone who might deny something or be ashamed of a part of their life, like not allowing that to be a part of who you are currently, because it's all those building blocks have something to do with it. there's always going to be that connection. So thank you.
And as an art, I mean, we still are artists, whether we're stage managers, techs or performers, we're artists. And by having those different backgrounds, it really makes us as unique individuals that this industry needs. We need that diversity because we do showcase humanity. And so being humans ourselves and really looking at it from a open eye, we get to showcase what life really is. And we get to pull them out of it too and create that fantasy world and create a different world that people don't want to be a part of, but can still connect to.
Yes.
And that is just the human connection.
Where do you see the business evolving to, especially right now with this whole COVID-19 era and being quarantined and entertainment being not considered an essential business at this time, even though everyone's looking at their, TV screens and iPads and all of that, watching Netflix and whatnot. But like, how do you see that developing and evolving, especially for you and your business?
Entertainment is resilient. We have been through so much. And then at the end of the day, humanity will look towards being entertained in the darkest of times. So there's no doubt in my mind that this industry will get through it. It might be slow at first, but man, once we're able to produce, it's going to go like wildfire because people are going to look to be entertained and to be pulled from reality, because that's what we do as entertainment. We pull people out of reality and into imaginations. And there's only so much at-home specials that you can watch of people singing in their kitchens. It's true. We tune into, we go to concerts, we go to events, we tune into shows to be pulled out of reality. And so once we are able to take those shows back to the production value that we used to have, and there will be ways, we will find ways, because we are victims of our own success. We will find ways to deal with whatever restrictions any state puts on us. We will find a way to make the best production out of anything. And yes, it will be a little different as far as the road to get there, but I think we will be coming back in a form of producing what we used to.
So tell us some of your favorite stories, because you've programmed for some big time TV experiences that we've all seen. We've all seen the Grammys.
That's
so
true.
Tell us some of your favorite stories.
Oh gosh. My favorite one, which was one of the topic ones, is Miss Universe, when Steve Harvey announced the wrong name.
Oh, I was watching.
Steve is an awesome guy. He really is a sweetheart. I've always had a great time with him being a host on one of our shows that we have, like Little Big Shots I did too. And he's a great guy. And you just felt for him when he had such a blast. It was his first year doing it. He was loving it with the ladies and introducing and cracking his jokes. And then when that happened, that poor man, I mean, so there we are. And we find out that we know who the winner is. And so we were calling the spotlights. I'm like, all right, Spots, just stay on the girl in the blue dress. Whatever happens next, stay on the girl with the blue dress, wherever she goes. Okay, great. And they announce the winner, and the girl in the silver dress goes to pick up the crown. I'm like, holy shit, they said the wrong name. And that was overcome. And, mass hysteria, chaos happening all over PL, and just trying to figure out what to do next. And, send so-and-so out to tell the audience. Steve has to go out and tell the audience. He needs to go explain. And so it took I want to say a good 5 minutes. And this poor girl sitting downstage center thinking she won Miss Universe. And then we're like, all right, Spots, now very gently come up on the girl in the blue dress. Very gently. And we're watching our program monitor of what they were taping. And you see her face just change, and nothing can prepare you for live television. And that was truly, I think, one of the craziest moments. And while all of this was happening, there was a woman who was driving a car with a child in it, and she, outside of our venue on the Las Vegas Strip, drove up onto the sidewalk and hit a couple people. So, while all this chaos was happening, they said, oh, and by the way, our venue's on lockdown because someone got shot outside. And we're like, what is this? What's going on? You can't write this shit. Oh my God. We're stuck in a room full of mad Filipinos and Chilean. Like, oh my God. Like the patrons alone were like furious about what was going on. And, because to a lot of the audience of the Miss Universe, this is their Super Bowl. Miss Universe is their life of like, they follow these girls. And I mean, it was a huge upset. And that lived on for a good year. I mean, poor Steve did not live that down. And we did a couple of gigs with him where he was like, introducing the wrong people. And it was great. But that's one of them.
Oh, I remember that night, and the Filipino community lost their shit. That was a crazy night. Tiffany, this has been great. Now, to round off our fireside chat, what advice or words of wisdom would you like to share with future Tiffany's out there and our audience in general?
Say yes. A lot of people, the biggest question everyone asks me about is, how do you get into the industry? Like, how do you get your foot in the door? Find out who you want to work for and be there. Be amongst them. Like, if it's a PA or if it's an assistant or if it's just a helping hand or an internship, if that's the company that you want to work for, get in there. Get your foot in. Be where you want to be. I had an intern friend who moved out to California for the first time. He left Boston for the first time in his entire life, came out to California, was an intern for a design firm that I work for. And he asked me, he's like, Tiff, should I stay or should I go back to Boston and like learn there and then come back out when I'm ready? And I'm like, why would you want to go and learn in Boston when you want to do stuff in LA? Like, if this is where you want to be, learn here. Like, if you want to work for this company, ask for a job. Like, say yes, be where you want to be and build there. There's no reason for you to go to like a smaller design firm or a different aspect in this career and learn there. Get in the door and build there, because in this industry, you only fall up. I mean, you will build on that foundation and learn how they want to do it, and you will grow from there. Don't be afraid to fail, because those are the best times to learn and to show who you are as a person. Because if you can fail graciously, you will succeed even better. You will succeed beyond. And that's a huge thing. Like, fail. But if you do, learn from it and fail graciously. Like, there are times where I mess up all the time. Like, I say, hey guys, this light's not working, or I don't have this side of the rig, or something's wrong. And, I'm not paying attention and it's on my end. And you just had the crew running around for the last hour trying to figure it out. And by owning up to your mistake and saying, oops, guys, you know what? My bad. It was on my end. I am so sorry. First round's on me. Owning up to your mistakes and acknowledging them and telling them how you're going to right your wrongs. I mean, that also speaks volumes. It shows that you learned, that you are not afraid to say that you messed up. That I think is one of the biggest things that people don't realize, that honesty and being able to claim your own faults and failures is a big thing. Because then I can now know that you've learned from that mistake and that I can trust you.
Well said. That's great. Thank you so much, Tiffany, again, for taking the time to meet with us. My gosh, such an incredible journey. And I hope that our listeners here, especially our little aspiring Tiffany's, I want to someday become a lighting programmer, will definitely benefit from this interview. So thank you.
And feel free to hit me up on my website and email me if you have any questions or just have general information or want to know something about this industry. I am always here for those.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love it. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
You heard her. If you'd like to follow Tiffany on her latest projects, you can visit her website at www.keylightinginc.com. You can also send her an email through there or follow her on Instagram at OneSpicyTech. That's the number 1, Spicy Tech.
And don't forget to listen in every other Friday wherever you get your podcast from. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.